Soundstripe.
Hello, my name is Jeremy. I'm here with Offensive Security. I'm a product manager with our content team. And today with me, I'm pleased to bring you Connor McGarr. Connor, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. So we're here today. I want to talk to you about your journey in security, how you got to CrowdStrike, how you found out about offensive security, and all that jazz. Can you start off by telling me just a little bit about yourself?
Yep. So good to be with you. My name is Connor McGarr, as you said, and I'm a red team consultant at CrowdStrike. I've been here for approximately a year. Prior to here, I did pen testing consulting in another firm for about 6 months. That was straight after I got out of college. Just wasn't a fan of the overall culture there, so I moved to CrowdStrike. I'm with a lot of like-minded people, so haven't really looked back since.
Nice. Tell me a little bit, how did you get into information security in the first place? What led you here?
Yeah, so I've always been one of those people who likes to tinker with, just anything really. I was always the quote unquote home IT person. So if, the Wi-Fi went down, someone would come up to me and be like, hey, can you fix this? I just unplug the router, plug it back in. So from there, I went to a local school after I graduated high school about 4 years ago. Essentially, it was one of the first cybersecurity programs, collegiate-wise, that there was. And so it kind of piqued my interest to go, oh, I've always been, infatuated with computing in general. So be a cool chance to, go to school and get into it. So from there, I kind of just, haven't looked back since, but that's kind of how I would say, just by tinkering with things in general, I've always been a fan of just understanding how things work.
So what was your first dive into actually going into offensive security?
So I was in college, and the thing I try to, tell people, especially in the technical side of security, is with schools, with your standard four-year institution, you shouldn't really have an expectation that everything is going to be updated coming out, and that you're going to be able to hit the ground running, especially in the technical side. So I had a friend, we competed in the collegiate cyber defense competition, and I kind of spoke to him on the side about what can I do in advance. And he had told me something about it was called the OSCP by OffSec. And so I kind of just started researching more, and I go, well, I know I want to be a pen tester, I know I want to do something technical, but I have no experience. So what can I do? What's within my reach that I can possibly do to help bridge that gap? And that's kind of when I understood, like, oh, people, really value the OSCP, especially from an entry-level pen testing perspective. So not only did I use that kind of from a knowledge perspective to actually learn the content, but from a credibility standpoint to go, okay, if I really want to do this, I'm going to put all my eggs in this basket, and here I am. So that's kind of how I went about my OffSec journey.
Wow. So right after graduating, you just jumped in.
Well, actually, it was during college itself is when I was doing it. I
okay.
did it. Yeah, I did it about between my junior and senior year. So for people like on the European system, that would be like your third or fourth year in school. So that's kind of when I started. That's when I did the OSCP, and I was interning at the time. I think the thing that I was blessed to have was I lived by myself. So right after work was done, I just immersed myself in the labs and the content itself. And kind of the thing that most guided me, I would say, was I really badly I wanted to be a pen tester. So I just always kind of kept that in the back of my mind, during the exam, during the labs. Like if I felt like I was getting tired, I kind of just bring that to the forefront and go, okay, there is a reason why I'm doing this. And so everything kind of panned out since there. But yeah, it was during those college days.
Gotcha. I want to talk more about how you went through the labs and what your experience was like. But first, let's stick on this point about wanting to be a pen tester. What about pen testing itself was sort of the motivator for you?
Yep. So being younger and seeing, it was a little bit in the news, seeing some attacks on TV that were publicized, etc. As I mentioned earlier, I've always been one of those people that wants to understand the why to why something happens. And so I thought to myself, I can be one of those people that I could see someone out on the street who really doesn't know anything about technically in information security. And I could, give a few points and say, this is why it happened or this is why it didn't happen. But that's not really good enough to me. I wanted to actually be able to physically hands-on understand what's happening, replicate that, being a pen tester, being able to replicate that. So just kind of the overall appeal of understanding the cogs underneath why things are going the way that they go.
Right. So when you sign up for PWK, we're calling it now Pen 200. You start getting into the coursework, you start getting into the labs. Did it meet your expectations? Did it hit you like a ton of bricks? Like what was that like for you?
So luckily the person that helped me out with introducing me to OSCP in general kind of gave me some pointers like this is the real deal, especially if because I think people forget it's geared towards people wanting to get into pen testing. So like it's your baseline pen testing course. So there's that, but at the same time, it's got a little bit of offset curveball to it, as I'll say, where, things are a little more overwhelming, especially the amount of content. I know things have doubled and even tripled in terms of what the Pen 200 has now. Mm-hmm. But at the time, when I actually pulled down the PDF and videos, I was like, oh, okay, like it's really going to go into detail on, a lot of things. So I would say definitely the sheer amount of what I needed to know definitely kind of hit me like a ton of bricks, I would say. But if you're one of those people, you put in the time and the hours, it will come around. It may take you one try, it may take you 30 tries, but if you're putting in the time and the effort, you will yield those results, especially with the way things are, curated with the course. In general, you have things like the forms, to rely on, to not rely on, but, if you really stuck, I always say you don't know what you don't know. So that sort of thing, but it had the perfect amount of that definitely try harder mantra, which I try to, ingrain into my own workflow, just even being a pen tester today. So definitely the amount, I would say, kind of, and I haven't even taken the Pen 200 version, so I can only imagine what those folks are going through.
Yeah, I do want to talk about Try Harder a little bit with you later. I'm thrilled to get your perspective on that. Do you have a story or a memory of a time in the labs or the course where you were frustrated and had like an aha moment?
Yeah, so it was. I won't speak too much to it, but during the exam, there was one portion that I got some things done pretty, not quickly, I would say, but I exceeded my expectations. But then I hit a brick wall. But it was one of those scenarios where it was either I have to do this or this one other thing. So it was, kind of pick your poison. And I spent probably 14 straight hours on that, late into the night. But I actually took the exam right when the proctored portion was coming into fruition. Okay. So I actually was one of the pilots for the proctored program. So I can only imagine what the person, there saw me jumping up and down. But my aha moment, I had a few in the labs, but I say the one that definitely stuck out was in the exam. And I would say definitely that, we'll talk about it later, but that try harder of leave no stone unturned, definitely that kind of mindset definitely helped me there.
So I wasn't planning to go here, but since you did pilot the proctoring program, I'm really interested. What was that like for you? What was the experience of saying, okay, now this exam that wasn't proctored before is going to be? How did that feel as a student? How did it feel taking it? And how do you feel after, like now, looking back?
Yeah, so I'm one of those people, I don't know what it is. I'm just very self-aware about myself. Mm-hmm. So going in, I kind of thought, okay, this is going to be a segue for me to get a job into pen testing. So I want this to be the most legit. I want no questions asked about this exam. I want to do it the right way. And I want there to be no, questions asked about it. So I opted for the proctored because I wanted, there was a lot of talk, at the time about, a lot of things going on with the exam. So mm-hmm. I wanted to make sure that I did it the right way. So I opted in. I just kind of accepted it for what it was, that this is the way it is. And honestly, 30 minutes into the exam, you forget that you're even being proctored. So it wasn't a big deal to me, but I felt the return on investment for doing the proctor definitely helped it, because I could have chosen to, go either way. So that's kind of just my view on it.
Yeah, you were in a really unique position to be able to do that. Nobody gets that choice anymore.
Yeah.
All right, so let's actually let me ask you this: what was your favorite module of PWK?
Definitely the buffer overflow section, and I think that rings home for most people. I've kind of taken that, to that's kind of my peak interest is, vulnerability research and exploit development, specifically on Windows. So I would say that kind of got me motivated. And it's actually, I got to say this, it was kind of so surreal when I saw in the module, it literally said the words verbatim. It said something like, most students ask, how do you know X amount of bytes was needed to go here? And I remember having a conversation with a coworker before we were doing some Hackbox machines, and there was a buffer overflow. And I said, I don't know how they know how many bytes, add up to go here and how they know when to jump. And it's like, when I read that module, that exact line was there. So that kind of just got me even more excited for it. But yeah, I'd definitely say that was my favorite for sure.
I can echo you. As a student, that was my favorite too. Yes. I used to be a student administrator, and I would say at least 60-70% of students say the same. I don't want to plug products too much here. I don't know if you know, we did just release our EXP 301 course, which is intermediate Windows exploitation. It starts at PWK level and then takes you all the way through DEP and ASLR bypasses. Do you have plans to take this one?
So I actually was enrolled in advanced Windows exploitation last year at Black Hat. So it's actually interesting. So I'm still like on the list, and I'm sure that we can't talk about it too much, but we'll see what happens with COVID here on out. I don't know what's going to happen this summer, but in the future. But like I was literally on the interstate when the course went live, and I pulled over on the side of the road to get enrolled for it. So that's kind of been like, I've been putting a lot of effort into that. So I'm still kind of looking down that road of eventually being able to take that. Now, we don't know when that is with the pandemic going on, but definitely looking forward to those. A lot of the concepts in EXP 301, I feel like I'm okay with, but I will say this: if Morton has anything to do with the course, it's definitely worth taking, because I'm sure there's some nuggets in there that I'm just not aware about. So we'll see what happens. But for now, my kind of end goal is AWE for sure.
Very nice, very cool. I really hope that we can get that running for you soon. Morton and Sickness, the two developers of both those courses, they are quite incredible.
Yes.
All right, let's pivot to this try harderism. Try harder. Tell me what that means to you.
So try harder to me means essentially don't leave any stone unturned. So I see a lot of people will say, you can apply it to a lot of things. So a lot of people ask me, especially when I was interning, I was, working, going to school full time, and also doing the course itself, PWK. And people say like, oh, I just don't have time to do that. And I ask them like, okay, what time do you wake up? And then, they say X amount of time, and, they're spending this amount of time doing that. And I said, well, based on your schedule, I see 3 hours where you're not doing anything at all. And that's how I kind of view try harder. By any means, get it done. Leave no stone unturned, especially when it comes to Google. So we are so blessed to live in this age where it doesn't matter how obscure you think your question is going to be, the answer is going to be there, or someone has encountered this problem before. So I see, I'm a member of a lot of Discords, and I'll see people just say, hey, I'm having an error with my C program. I'm like, okay, well, there's a million things. Are you on Windows? Are you on Linux? What error were you getting? Was it while you were compiling the application, while you were running it? There's a bunch of questions that you can ask that, you're not even thinking about at the time. And it may not even be that person's fault. It just never crosses their mind to go, oh, I didn't think about that, searching and digging deeper. So I would say threefold: digging, as deep as you can, and really pulling. You'd be surprised what you can pull out of yourself when you really want something. And then I would say, Google, like, don't leave any stone unturned, and by any means, like people underestimate how much time there is in a day. We all are busy, don't get me wrong, families, kids, that sort of thing. But I kind of view it as, you don't need to spend 18 straight hours on something if you can't, afford that. An hour here, you have an hour here. You have 30 minutes between when you need to do something. Take that time to go back and, read the material or do something. Let that, brew in your brain while you're working or doing something else just by reading that little snippet. Think about it. You don't have to constantly, be on there, but just the matter of at least having it in the back of your mind and at least doing whatever you can. That's kind of how I view the try harder mindset. You may be on a pen test and you're used to doing Windows, for instance. A lot of pen testing is surrounded about Windows Active Directory. What happens when you get on the pen test that has decentralized Mac OS and they don't have Active Directory? It's one of those things where, okay, yeah, you're a pen tester, but this isn't in your wheelhouse per se. It may be in some other person's wheelhouse. But you're going to have to do research. You're going to have to Google more and look into it. That's kind of the way I view it, where you get a problem, you may not have encountered it. Go research, go figure out a way.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I think that was very well said. I think, we teach on one hand, there's techniques, right? There's like, how do you exploit SQLi? How do you take advantage of this service? How do you do that? But behind that layer of technical detail is this mindset and trying to understand, how do I pursue this problem that I don't know how to solve yet? So, wow, you've really expressed that very nicely.
Yeah.
So on one hand, we have like try harder, which we just talked about. But on the other hand, hacking is also about having an adversarial mindset and putting your mind in that of an attacker. How was it like for you, like growing up and not having that mindset, and now always thinking about, how do I attack this? How do I exploit that, thwart this?
Exactly. So I would say, honestly, to tell you the truth, pen testing, a lot of it. Now there are some aspects that are extremely technical, I would say, but a lot of it is honestly just about the creative mindset. So let's say you go on an engagement, and I know people, have their gripes about, oh, OffSec said I can't use this tool on an exam or do that. Well, let's say you go on an engagement, right? And you need to do something like get a list of users from Active Directory. Oh, I'm so used to using this tool, this tool, this tool. And then you get on there and it doesn't work. That happens from time, and it may not even be endpoint protection or anything. It just may not work within the environment. What do you do then? Because you put all your eggs in that basket. So I would say the creativity part definitely is the way I view a lot of pen testing now. And just in general, when I see I'm out and about and I see a blue screen of death on a big billboard somewhere or anything like that, it's the creativity part. The foundational skills, they come. It's anything like learning to write, learning to read. They come in time, and it's about understanding those basics. But from there, honestly, it's about getting creative. Okay, I'm used to hitting, I'm used to spawning my C2 connection with WMI. Okay, well, that's not working now. What do I do? How do I go about it? So I would say definitely just the creativity aspect is definitely, especially from the offset courses. I know that rings true for a lot of people, especially, in the labs, especially the PWK labs, I would say. Things are just put in a way sometimes where it forces you to think outside the box. And I think that is the biggest skill that a pen tester can take away. Because, you can Google something online and the technical aspects, you can kind of get a gist for it. But that creativity part of, okay, this isn't working. Now what's my game plan? That sort of thing is the mindset, I think, that is so valuable, especially from the courses.
100%. Yep. What did you learn that you didn't think that sort of surprised you? Doesn't have to be necessarily in PWK, just throughout your pen testing career so far. What's something that, you were like, wow, I didn't think it would work like that?
I would say the Active Directory side of things. I know that that's been hit on a lot, in the new Pen 300 course, especially. But I didn't realize, especially after going into client environments and whatnot, that Active Directory just has such a breadth of not even attack surface. It's not even, a lot of clients especially think, oh, it's going to be all CVEs. You're going to be throwing exploits at things, etc. A lot of it is not even that. You're just abusing something in a way it wasn't intended to be used, like Kerberoasting, for instance, or different other things where that's how it is by design. There's not really, a patch, quote unquote. you can put into to mitigate some things. I'm not saying there's not ways to mitigate curb roasting, but in general, I think the living off the land in pen testing was a higher bell curve, I would say, in terms of what you're actually using on engagements and whatnot, just that living off the land mindset. Whereas I think a lot of people have this preconceived notion of hacking as, you know, you've got a list of binary exploits and that's what you're throwing and you're getting all these command line access and all this type of thing. I would definitely say, especially in Active Directory environments, the amount of things just like system administrators leaving plain text credentials in a PowerShell script, for instance, or something of that nature. Those are kind of things I think people, you know, it slips their mind, especially because they're so focused on the quote unquote offensive or hacking part of it. But I think just the amount of not even exploits you use, just the amount of what's available to you definitely surprised me, especially, you know, in my first few engagements.
Yeah, I think it's definitely the case that when you have more complexity, something like Active Directory, the more complexity there is, the more room there is for that kind of configuration mistake.
Yes.
So I'm interested, as somebody who works for CrowdStrike as a pen tester, but just generally, what would you say to a defender who wants to try to avoid some of these mistakes?
I would say the biggest thing, and I say this to a lot of people that I know are in the blue team, understand the attack surface. So I think there's a lot of, and that may sound, you know, super, not redundant, but what's the word I'm looking for? You know, oh, that's a gimme, like you should know that.
Yeah, of course.
But but I think people don't understand a lot what attackers are actually doing. And a lot of it is that living off the land type thing. So when you're configuring a service, for instance, think like an attacker. Do you really need the service account to be in the domain admins group? Or can you take the path, which may not be the path of least resistance, can you identify exactly what privileges this account needs and, you know, configure a group based on that, where you're not just blatantly giving it, you know, domain admin privileges because it was the easiest thing in the world. I think things like that, just having that mindset of thinking like an attacker, but also, you know, hacking is not just throwing DDoSes at things and doing that sort of thing. That's not the attack surface you see in terms of gaining meaningful access. So definitely understanding what the threat landscape is, I would say definitely. And things like service accounts, for instance, you know, you can deny service account interactive logon, but what about network logons? You know, what about using something like WMI or SMB or that nature? Thinking in those terms of, you know, not everything is as straightforward as it seems. Think like an attacker and just try to keep up with what exactly attackers are doing today. And there's a lot of blogs online. There's a lot of, you know, newscasts, podcasts. Just I recommend the Pen 200, the formerly known as PWK, to everyone, blue team, red team, whatever it is, because I think that gives you a nice baseline of what attackers are actually doing today. So I recommend that to everybody. So that's what I would say about that.
Just full disclosure, I did not pay you to say that.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. But it's true. You know, I'll leave names out and whatnot. But people, you know, ask me, you know, I did X course or I did, you know, X lab, and I didn't really feel like, you know, it was too realistic or whatnot. And I'm not saying one is better than the other, but I can only speak to what I've done. I've only done 2 certifications in my life, the OSCP and the formerly Cracking the Perimeter OSCE. Other than that, I haven't done anything else. I know what has worked for me. That is what has got me, I feel like, has really helped me get to where I'm at. And so I can only speak to that. I had a great experience doing this. Now, whatever that may be for you, whether it's PWK or whatever, I found, you know, value in the PWK. Just keeping up with it in terms of doing stuff like that, I think definitely helps. And instead of just, you know, thinking like an attacker comes from actually applying, you know, it's one thing to read an article. It's another thing to actually sit down and do it. And you have those aha moments. Oh, that's how they're doing it. And that, you know, maybe the brainchild for a great detection for that, whatever you just did right there, just based on, oh, I didn't realize, this technique was actually doing this under the hood. It's always going to do this X, Y, and Z. So I can put a detection around that. I think that really is what I would recommend to most people. Definitely.
Nice. Very nice. So given where you are in your career right now, you sound like you're very well-rounded in terms of the topics that you're interested in and exposed to. You mentioned AWE. What are the other areas that you're interested in, or what challenges do you see ahead of you?
So it's actually interesting because I got so involved with exploit development there for a while, and I definitely still am. That's my number one thing. I was doing so much, everything from some of the topics covered in the new Windows User Mode exploit development course to, Windows kernel exploitation. And I thought for a second there, I was going so far down the rabbit hole. I'm like, do I even know if I want to be a red team anymore? Like, I don't know what's going on anymore. I just know I really love to do this kind of low level stuff. Mm-hmm. Now, whether I'm good at it or not, that's up for debate. I have a lot to learn. I'll just put it that way. But I actually didn't realize how much crossover there was with a lot of malware development, especially understanding Windows internals, taking some of the concepts that I understood from exploit development and actually going, oh my goodness, there's actually a way to apply it directly to what I'm doing. And so that has actually forked a secondary passion, I would say, especially writing in C. I love to write in C. That's my favorite language. It's great for exploit development, especially. And, just recently there's been, a trend with malware development, especially, phishing is a big target these days. I didn't realize how much of that was actually applicable to what I'm doing in malware development. And so that's definitely where I think I've sparked a second interest, is understanding, okay, what are these products doing to detect, or what are they looking at? How much telemetry are they gathering? Where are they getting that telemetry from? And using some of that knowledge of what I have learned about Windows internals and exploit development, I think definitely has not only sparked a second interest, but I found something that I actually want to pursue a little bit more, definitely.
Very nice. That's cool, because exploit development, as you know, is this very, very niche sort of mathematical, nerdy field.
Yes.
And finding applications outside of that is very, very useful. Very good.
Yes.
All right. So when you went through the course, you got your OSCP, you then doing CTP. How did you find the now, like you said, retired OSCE compared to PWK?
Yeah, so I've had these conversations a lot with folks, and I've even seen Morton around typing in some discords about CTP, about how at the time those techniques were almost like unbelievable, like uncovered. Yeah. So a lot of it actually, I feel like in CTP was a lot more like, I view PWK as probably 100 feet wide, probably 50 feet deep. Whereas I viewed CTP as like 2 feet wide, 1,000,000 feet deep. And so getting in there, actually a lot of it, Mutz was the voice of that. He would just say a lot of things like, and we've got our shell. And it's like, okay, I actually have to do the work to figure out why the heck that even worked in the first place. So a lot of it was just like, I'm going to introduce you to this topic, run with it. So that's where I think developed my persistence in what I need to know about pen testing. Many nights in the debugger, many nights trying different things, and finally getting that result. CTP for me was kind of, so I'm one of those people, especially with if you've taken the exam for that, and I won't give any details away, you almost know that exam especially was a great gauge of knowing if you could apply the knowledge no matter what time era you're in. Mm-hmm. Whereas the course, the topics definitely need to be updated over time and whatnot. That exam, I actually felt like I actually learned a lot more from that exam itself. I had a great experience with that course. I took it I passed it in August of 2019. So, just right, like on the cusp of it being retired. So I was probably one of, the later people to take it. I enjoyed the course. I'm really happy, what's come out with the 3 new courses, because if you have taken that CTP, it does touch on web application, antivirus evasion, and exploit development. Now, I think it's a little more heavy on the exploit development side, but having independent courses for those is definitely great. I actually found value in the CTP even at the time that I took it, and I'd say that actually is what kind of sparked me to really even more get into exploit development. And especially I took a chance on it. I remember talking to someone after I finished PWK, and they said, what about OSCE now? And I said, I'm going to need years to study the assembly needed for that. And just looking into it more and more, and some of the crossover with the PWK, and just going online, seeing other people's experience. Okay, this is going to be definitely a challenge. If you look at old blogs, especially, people really feared that course, especially. But just taking a chance on it, getting into it, the course definitely is on the lighter side of explanation, and it's more of just getting you to bring it out of yourself more so than an exact, play-by-play of what's going on. So I actually felt a lot more independent in that course versus PWK. I felt like the PWK was much more structured at the time, especially with the vast labs and just the forms and the whole system there. So I felt like I definitely gained a lot from the CTP. Was sad to see it go, but that's more for nostalgic reasons. It was time to update it, and I'm glad that happened, but I definitely learned a lot from it.
Let's stick on that point about wanting to feel prepared before jumping into a course, not just CTP, but in general. At OffSec, we often see this from community members, that they want to feel like they are ready for a particular course. And sometimes we sit here and scratch our heads and go, well, just jump in. Let's see what you got. What would you say to somebody who is wanting to go into a particular course, particular domain, but feels like they aren't confident enough yet? How would you boost that person's confidence?
Yep. So what I would say is, it gives no one pleasure in life to see someone fail. So I think a lot of people especially think, OffSec is trolling me with this, or they're doing that. No one wants to see you fail. Look at what the certifications have done for people in their lives. For me, especially, that's how I kind of view it. That really helped me get my first job, which helped me end up in CrowdStrike. So I would say no one wants to see you fail. So when you go in the course, don't have that expectation that the world's against you or everyone's against you. Don't have that mindset, because people want you to succeed. Everyone there, the course was developed for that. But you have to also remember at the same time, anything that's worthwhile doing is not going to be easy. It's going to be difficult. So I would say what I like to do is OffSec is very, transparent about prerequisites on the course pages. It says, especially for PWK, have a solid understanding of, TCP/IP, understanding Python and all that is a plus. And just reading those and go, okay, am I there yet? Do I understand that? Do I understand these bare minimum concepts? And then go in. Now, for me, I didn't even realize about the PWK after I'd already been doing some other labs practicing on doing vulnerable machines. And that's just because I enjoyed it. It definitely did help me getting into, the OffSec PWK course. But I would say, look at the actual syllabus of the course itself. Look at the first, chapter and a half or the old PWK was just straight bash. How do you use bash in general? So I think that's overlooked, especially when you look at blog post reviews. People, are all about, which I'm in that same boat too. I learned these awesome topics from there, but it's not like you're just going to be, left to your own devices. There is modules in there. There's an understanding of, okay, we're going to have students in here that really want to get into this. How do we help, get them to where they need to be, where we're not going to hold their hand, but at the same time, you're not going to feel like you're sinking. So that's what I would say definitely is look at the syllabus. All the syllabuses are there. Look at them, see what the modules are going to be in any course, OffSec or regardless of what it is. And look at the content of the course. If you're going into something like PWK, there's far less of a learning curve than something like, advanced Windows exploitation, where, you probably need to have a little bit of experience before you actually jump into that course. So accept the course for what it is. I think it's great with the ranking system now with like Pen 200, 300. I think that really helps in terms of, difficulty and what's going to be there and whatnot. So just understand that no one is just going to give it to you, but at the same time, no one wants to see you fail. That doesn't give anybody a satisfying feeling. So just understanding that really helped me, especially when I went through it.
Mm-hmm. All right, Connor. Well, we're running a little on time. I have this next section here of rapid fire fun questions. You can go into as much or as little depth as you want to here. All right, number one, what word would you use to describe OffSec? One word.
Insanity.
Indeed, yes. All right, what's the best thing about pen testing?
Shells.
You're good at this. This one's more serious. What's an underrated soft skill that you've developed throughout your pen testing career or your schooling?
I would say definitely understanding that people you're explaining something to don't have the same concept or view of it. So if it's a serious, technical topic, being able to use analogies and relay it to somebody who may not necessarily have that same understanding, and vice versa. If somebody else has a greater understanding than you, just take that high level knowledge and then do more research later.
Very nice. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right that it goes both ways, and it can be hard to be on one end of that and then switch gears to the other side. So definitely. Exactly. Yeah. What's the most important quality that a pen tester should have?
Persistence, definitely. Persistence. Do not give up.
What's a misconception about getting started in cybersecurity?
You don't need to be a master at programming. Definitely. I would say that we live in an age where there's a lot of open source tools. All the source code is available. There's a lot of information out there for free to supplement what you're learning in courses. There's a lot of courses out there, etc. Definitely, I would say that.
And so this one, feel free to not go into this if you don't want to. What is the story behind your nickname?
Okay, so my nickname is Eeyore on Twitter. Well, actually in Discord, I love Mountain Dew Baja Blast. So that's what that is. But on Twitter, on my first job I was at, I was introducing myself, and I'm from a very small town in the Midwest of the United States, and I moved to Houston, Texas for that job. So a bit of a not culture shock per se, but things were just way different than what I've been used to. And I was really nervous being there. So on my talk, I was saying, hello, everybody. My name is Connor, and I'm really excited to be here. And someone said, oh, don't sound too excited, Eeyore. So when I heard that, that's from Winnie the Pooh. So I just kind of put that in leet speak, and that's how I got my nickname on Twitter.
Well, you definitely sound dynamic and engaged today, my friend.
Yes.
Connor, we are just about at the end of time, but I want to give you the opportunity. Do you have any questions for me about OffSec, about what we're doing?
Well, we just got dropped. A lot of courses just got dropped on us. So other than that, I know it's selfish to ask, but I don't know what's going to happen with advanced Windows exploitation. I'm sure you can't get into that too much, so I won't really put you in that situation. But if you got any eggs or droplets you want to drop my way, definitely interested in.
I mean, all I can say at this time is that as soon as the situation allows it, we'll definitely be looking into that.
Definitely. Awesome.
Connor, anything else that you want to say to our viewers, listeners?
Have fun in those labs.
All right. Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure speaking with you today, and good luck with all your pen testing.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.